Hello everybody, this is ManuS and welcome back to the Eternal set review for Dark Frontier. It's time to tackle part 3 of the Justice cards, but before we do so, you know the drill. Hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel and haven't done so yet. Turn on the notification icon to not miss out on future content, of course, and please consider whitelisting EternalTitans.com and YouTube on the adblock to help support us creating content for you guys. And now on to the cards. Okay. First we have Innovator. It's a 3-cost 2/4. When a unit emerges or unit with Charge's Blade, it gets -3 attack this turn. So this is kind of another anti-charge thing. Not the biggest fan. It also happens to help a bit about against like shifting units, hitting you unblockable, one-turn stuff, but the card just doesn't do enough. It's a 2/4 for 3, which is not great in constructed. So I don't think this is even going to be particularly relevant as a market card. In Limited, however, a 3-cost 2/4 is alright, and the ability is a nice bonus. So in Limited, I think it's a fine playable, nothing too exciting though. Next we have War Wagon. A 3-cost 3/3, and if you shift it for 5, it gives one of your units +3/+3 until it emerges. This is one of the best cards of this cycle, I think. And really powerful. A 3-cost 3/3 is totally fine, and the shifted ability is pretty powerful. Next we have Copper Hall Chancellor. This card's kind of interesting, but also in a bit of a weird spot. So it's a 4-cost 1/1, costs triple justice, so it's not that easy to support. The enemy player can't copy cards or play units with the same name as another one of the units. Kind of interesting that it is kind of mentioning the copying explicitly, but I guess it matters in the sense that it also blocks you from copying cards in your hand or like outside units in play, because if you would play mirror image on a unit you already have in play, it would play a second copy of that unit, which wouldn't work thanks to Chancellor anyway, and it just wouldn't come into play. So the copy line basically only affects anything but actual copy effects like mirror image, because they are already covered under the second part. And yeah, you basically need to onslaught this, otherwise it's way too fragile, but if you onslaught it, it gets +X/+X, where X is the highest attack among your other units. So this can usually be pretty big as a 4-drop as long as you can set up the onslaught. The problem is, if you can't, the card is basically unplayable. The effect is kind of marginal and situational, so yeah, so far the card hasn't really seen play in Constructed, and I didn't really know what to do with it, but technically it is kind of interesting and has a reasonable power level, so it's something to keep in mind if it somehow fits into a specific deck and might make sense, but it's kind of hard to fit it somewhere, is the problem. In Limited, however, this is pretty good. It will usually be fairly big. Should be able to turn this into like a 4/4 at least the turn you play it, more often than not. And then the text on it is not super relevant in Limited, but it's going to be a fairly strong 4-cost unit all in all. But triple justice can be problematic in Limited, so make sure that your deck is very justice heavy. Next we have High Alert. A decent limited combat trick. It's very expensive for 4, but the fact that it readies the unit and gives it endurance means it breaks stuns, it lets you attack and block, and the warp means that you can sometimes play it for free in terms of card economy, which is pretty nice. So all in all it's fine, but 4 is a lot for what it does still, so probably don't want to play too many of these in your limited deck for that specific reason. Next we have Coastal Curator. A 4-cost 4/4 is pretty nice in Limited, but it can only attack unless if you play the spell this turn, so another Spells Matters card. So if you have enough spells, it's a pretty nice 4-drop. Otherwise, if your deck is defensive enough, it's still fine potentially, because a 4/4 blocker, if you don't care too much about attacking early on, is still pretty good. But it's quite specific in which decks it can go in Limited. Next we have Minotaur Blademaker. In Limited, this is clearly a bomb, and in Constructed, this is a pretty cool 4-drop that is quite playable. Basically up front you get virtually a 4/5 for 4, which is not that great, but fine. given that it comes with a lot of powerful utility. Twist 2 turns it into a 6/4 and then into an 8/3 and so on, virtually. And also every time you twist, you get a +2/+2 weapon on a unit that doesn't, on another unit that doesn't already have a weapon. So effectively for twist 1, you add a lot of attack to the board and a lot of stats in general. And if this guy lives and you get to your 5th turn with it, it's quite a monster. If you then can twist it on 2 units, for example, it is super brutal. Card is really nice and a pretty good mid-range 4-drop in Justice. Possibly the best Justice mid-range 4-drop right now, since Justice had some issues there, like Sheriff Marley was the other solid option, but outside of that, not really much to go for. Next we have Reclaim. This card's pretty sweet. It's basically Justice answer to Core. It's a 4-cost that draws 2 Justice Sigils, and if you trigger Onslaught, you play them instead. It's even better than Core because it virtually costs 2, since the Justice Sigils will be ready, so it effectively only costs 2 power when you play it with Onslaught. So yeah, this is a pretty powerful ramp card. Goes really well into big Combre style decks, Combre ramp style decks for example, or even like Recano Valkyrie, Flame Blast, Telut type decks as we played in the past for example. So yeah, all in all a pretty cool and powerful card for Constructed, and also totally fine and limited if you have enough top end. Next we have Taurite Test Pilot. It's a 4-cost 1/4 flying, and you can twist it to gain 1 armor. So a 1/4 flyer for 4 is not that exciting, but twisting it into a 2/3, 3/2, and even 4/1 flyer, especially if the opponent doesn't have a flying blocker, is really nice. And the armor obviously has nice synergy with various Justice cards like we've seen before, like the 2-drop, just relic weapons and so on. Not a Constructed card though. Also, Minotaur Valkyrie is a very cool like unit type, and it also looks pretty funny. Next we have Reinforcements. Reinforcements, another pretty interesting card for Constructed. It's kind of expensive and very situational, but also potentially very powerful. Decks that heavily rely on spells like Hero Control or certain Yennev decks and stuff like that can simply lose to this card on the spot. If you just play it, they don't have a Face Aegis up, and it resolves. They yeah, will be locked out of all their key interaction for 3 turns, and if you have a decent board when you do this, that should be enough to just win you the game. And the Onslaught is mostly irrelevant and not that important, because you usually want to use this to end the game and not create incremental advantage with the Onslaught, but it's another nice bonus that can come in handy, especially if you somehow don't manage to win the game with playing this card. So yeah, keep that in mind. In Limited, I think the card is not that great. You depend more on the Onslaught, and it's pretty situational, and the first half isn't that great. In Limited, I would probably try to avoid playing it. Next we have Roosting Warhawk. Limited only again, but usually if you can trigger the Onslaught, getting a 5-cost 4/3 flyer for common is quite good. It's not great, but it's very solid, so pretty happy to have multiple of these in my Limited deck. Usually flyers are strong, especially 4/3 flyers. Next we have Sediti, the Killing Steel. Side note on Limited, these cards are almost unplayable in Limited due to their steep requirements, but if you can somehow support them with your deck, they are insane. So in Constructed, this is the best of the 5, the most impactful one, and also the most powerful one, I would say. If you get to trigger the Onslaught, the card is insane. A 5-cost 6/6 flyer with Warp alone is amazing, and then getting the curse on the opponent that can win games on its own just by stalling out the game a bit and drawing 2 cards a turn and just burying the opponent in resources is insane. And once you start drawing cards, it's hard for the opponent to stop you from drawing cards because you get more resources, so it's a lot harder for your opponent to get through and deal damage to you. So yeah, the card snowballs really quick and is one of the main pillars of Constructed right now in terms of CDT mid-range decks, mostly Hero and some Combre decks, as we saw in the Ranked Masters Challenge. And last but not least, we have another limited only card. It's a 5-cost 2/6 Shield Crafter, and with Onslaught you get 6 armor. 6 armor is a lot, as we all know. This is comparable to Throne Warden, a lot better in the armor department. Requiring Onslaught makes it a lot more situational and a lot less flexible and constructed, especially. Goes a lot less into, say, controlling decks, because getting the Onslaught is hard, and Throne Warden's Aegis also matters a lot there, so Throne Warden is still better. But in Limited this is really powerful. If you have a couple of relic weapons, gaining 6 armor and a 2/6 blocker to protect it is brutal. So this card seems pretty great in the right Limited deck. Alright, this concludes part 3 of the Justice review. I will be back later with part 4 to wrap up Justice today, to speed up the review a bit, and then continue tomorrow with Primal to speed things up a bit and get the review done, because we're getting deeper and deeper into the format, and want to get the review out for you guys. As I already said, I'll try to find a way to speed it up and rethink how I'm doing this for the next set. Anyway, if you enjoyed the series, you know the drill. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notification icon for more, hit the like button, share it with your friends, leave a comment, let me know what you think. All of this helps. And please consider whitelisting EternalTitans.com and YouTube on your ad block, and check out the ads at the beginning and end of the videos. That would really help support the content a lot. That's it again for this time. I'm your host ManuS. I thank you for watching, and I see you in the next video. Bye!